What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm running into a bit of an issue with my lab server or my dev environment server, whatever you want to call it. And the issue is 100% self-inflicted. I need to upgrade the hard drive on it. Well, I need to update several hard drives on it, but I will talk about that in a separate video. That's the next video that's going to be coming up after this video. So since I just started working on this environment, this is the environment I will be working on so far. We've built out a couple of things. The environment is starting to take shape, and we're putting together different components of the environment. I could technically take a step back and say like, hey, you know what, I need to update, because the thing that I need to update on the server is the hard drive. A couple of the hard drive, I need to upgrade it to something else, and we'll talk about that in the next video. I could just wipe out everything, rebuild everything again, and then just kind of go from there, get a little bit more practice. But I don't want to do that. So doing that is extra work. I have a lot of videos that I have to create. There's a lot more work that needs to be done in terms of like the things that I need to put together, the videos that I need to create. Doing that would kind of let me lose about 1 more week of work time that could be spent moving forward, not backward. So I sat down and I figured this would be a perfect example to test out the Proxmox Backup Server. So we're going to take a look at the Proxmox Backup Server. We're going to install it and see how it fits in our environment. So in this video, I'm going to install it on one of my spare Optiplex desktop that I have laying around. The goal is extremely simple, nothing too complicated. I just want to get a feel of what it is, walk through the different components of it, and back up all of my current VM and container. Then in the next video, I will swap out the hard drive of my lab server or my dev server, and then I will restore everything back. These are the VMs and container that we back up. Kind of like a little mini disaster recovery, so to speak. So chapters are below. Feel free to jump to whatever interests you the most. With that being said, let's go ahead. Let's get started. All right, so this is the Optiplex desktop that I have laying around that I'm going to install the Proxmox OS on. It's a pretty simple Optiplex desktop. It's one of those office desktop style. Again, I don't want anything too fancy right now. I just want something that's going to be able to back up my VMs and container and then just sit on the side and then do it every night. And just have somewhere that's external from the Proxmox server, so I can have some sort of backup, since this is the server that's going to be backing up is kind of like my test or dev server, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But again, pretty simple, nothing too complicated at all. And this is something that you can do as well. You don't need a fancy VM to set up a backup server. It just needs to be something simple with enough drive in it. And if you want some sort of RAID or anything like that, you can have enough drive for that. I don't. Again, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I just want one location backup for now until I can come up with something better, right? It has 8 TB SAS HDD in there, so I'm gonna just disconnect this guy so we can take a look at the rest of the stuff. Looks like this. This is where all of the backup are going to live. 8 TB is more than enough for this environment right now, and as things grow, I will change. And as things grow, of course, this is definitely not going to be the backup server. It's going to be something better, but this should do for now. So I'm going to remove that guy, and I'm just going to take this off. It does have a CD drive. I might, maybe I'll replace this and then just use one of those SSDs, but I don't know yet. I don't want to overcomplicate it. I do have an M.2 NVMe SSD in there. I think this is 1 TB. I haven't used this desktop for a while, but I think this is 1 TB. So this is where the Proxmox OS is going to be installed and it's going to live. It has about, I think, 16 gigs of RAM. So again, nothing crazy at all. It's just a backup server. I don't want to overcomplicate my backup server when it doesn't need to be yet. So I don't want to overcomplicate it. No grounding whatsoever, right? I'm just, that's how much I care about this desktop. But anyways, it is 8. If I'm not mistaken, it's 8 GB. Yeah, 8 GB DDR4 again. Yeah, it's an old server, man. It's just been sitting there doing nothing. So I figured this would be a perfect thing for it to just kind of be able to run with it and have something installed, so you can do something while it sits down, right? And be able to back up my server while I restore or update the drives on my main server. I flip this around. Let me flip this back this way. Snap that back in place. So that's pretty much it. Again, very simple, very straightforward, not overcomplicating it. Just something to back up my servers, my VMs for now, and then I'm going to do the upgrade on the server. And then this is going to be kind of like the backup for the dev environment, for the dev server. Just back things up, and maybe I might have some sort of offsite backup set up, so I can replicate this to something offsite. Very simple, very straightforward. So let's go ahead and put that back in. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and reconnect this guy. Like so, connect that guy back up, and then just snap this guy back in. And we're going to snap the front back in place, put everything back together the way it was. And then we're going to close it up. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is the guy that's going to be the main backup server for now. And then once things start picking up maybe, and then I start setting up more and more things on that, the dev server. Again, the dev server is called a dev server for a reason, right? That's why I create videos. That's why I do a lot of things. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in the next video. I'm not really too focused on trying to make sure that there's redundancy and all this stuff on the dev server. On my main production server, again, we'll talk about that in the next video. That one I'm a little bit cautious about, but for things like this, I'm not too crazy about it. I just want some sort of like backup on things, but nothing too crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The installation process is relatively quick. So you just grab the ISO from the website, bond it to a USB, boot your server, and you're off to the races. It's basically the same as the Proxmox VE setup. You pick your disk, you set your IP and your host name, and you're good to go. So real quick, so for this setup, I am not going to be doing ZFS. And the reason for that, let me just click on this real quick. I have two drives, right? So I have the SSD, the M.2 SSD that's in there. And then I have my SATA HDD drive. That's about 8 TB. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on option here, and I'm going to keep it. I'm going to let it stay at ext4. And the reason for that is that I'm not going to do ZFS because one, it's only one drive, and then two, I don't have enough RAM to be doing ZFS in the first place because we know ZFS requires a lot of RAM, and I do not have that. And this is a backup server, so ext4 will work just fine. There's nothing really to change here, but I just wanted to talk about that real quick. I do not have two drive. I only have one. Again, very simple backup server. ext4 is perfect. The file system is ext4. We're going to click OK, and we're going to install it, of course, on this guy, and this is going to be used for backup. So what exactly is Proxmox Backup Server, and why would you even use it? It's a dedicated backup solution built to work hand in hand with Proxmox VE. So instead of manually exporting or snapshotting things, you get a system designed for fast, reliable, and space-efficient backup. Here are some of the highlights for the Proxmox Backup Server. It supports incremental backup. So after the first backup, it only saves changes, which makes it fast, and it allows you to save a lot of space. There's deduplication. This is where duplicate data is only stored once. There's client-side encryption. So what this means is that your data is encrypted before it even leaves the machine. There's integrity verification, which is basically a built-in check to make sure that the backups are usable. There's file-level support. So it uses Proxmox Backup clients to back up physical machines or folders. There's remote sync and replication. So what that means is that you can send backup to another server for offsite protection. And there's tape backup. So if you're into long-term backup, it has a built-in support for that too. To be honest, it is pretty much a full enterprise-grade backup solution. And the best part is it's open source and it's free. And I like free, so I can't complain there. I will add a link in the description if you want to kind of read the whole feature list. Okay, so let's do a quick walkthrough of the different components so we can have a better understanding of where things are and what they do. First, you have the dashboard. This gives you a quick status overview. So things like CPU, RAM, disk usage, uptime, and Datastore usage. It is very similar in terms of look and feel to that of the Proxmox VE dashboard. Then you have notes. It's a simple notepad for reminders or setup notes or whatever you want to write down there. It's just something that's there for you to, well, take notes. You have the configuration tab. This is where you will set basic things like time zone, DNS, and network interfaces. Then you have access control. This is where you will manage users, permission, 2FA, and API tokens. Then there's remote. This is where you will connect to another Proxmox Backup Server for things like offsite replication. The S3 endpoints allow you to connect to cloud storages like Amazon S3 or similar cloud storages, so you can back up your data to the cloud if you choose to. Traffic control basically allows you to throttle your backup speed so they don't hang up your network. You have the certificate tab. This is where you manage your SSL certificate. The default is, of course, a self-signed certificate, but you can use something like Let's Encrypt for a trusted certificate. This is something that I'm going to touch on a little bit more in this series for both the backup server and Proxmox VE. Notifications is where you will set up alerts for backup jobs. Usually it's something that you set up to go to your email so you're aware if something fails or something else. So this is where you set up all of your notifications that you need. The administration tab is where you handle pretty much all the back end stuff for the backup server. So you can see system status, you can run and stop services as needed, you can run updates to the server as well as manage repository. You can also check system logs as well. There are also a full task history here. So if something happens on the server, like let's say backup or restore or even a package update, you can track everything here on this panel. Of course, it has a built-in shell terminal as well. So if you want to run your commands directly on the server, you can do so without having to SSH into the server. Then there's the storage and disk section. This is where you will view drive, partitions, smart status, and prep the disk for the data store as well. We're going to take a look at this in a few, but just know that if you want to manage anything that have to do with storage and disk, this is the section that you will come to. There's a tape backup section. If you still use tape backup, honestly, I think I ran into this one time since I started working in IT. It's something that you don't see that often, like at all. But this is where you manage it if you do want to manage it. It's really more of like an enterprise feature, but it's here, of course, if you want to experiment with it in your home lab as well. Maybe it's something that I'll take a look at, but we'll see. Last on the list, you have Datastore. This is basically where all your backup actually live. So think of it as the main storage pool for your snapshots. Inside the Datastore tab, you have something called Prone Job. This basically cleans out your old backup based on the retention rules you set, so your storage doesn't fill up. You also have Garbage Collector. This basically clear out unused chunks and reclaim space for you. You also have Verified Jobs. So this makes sure that your backups aren't corrupted and they can actually be restored. You also have the Sync Jobs tab. So if you set up remotes, this is how you push copies of your backup to another server that's offsite. So basically, the data store is the heart of the system. It's where everything comes together. All right, so now that we know our way around, let's actually set up a data store and back up some of our VMs and container so we can get ready for our server up. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do, well, first of all, let's just take a glance. So this is what it looks like right now. Nothing on it yet. As you can see, it's humming along just fine. CPU, RAM, again, not that much. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want to use ZFS. And it tells you the storage where it's installed right now. It's about 1 TB. And this is perfect for a backup server, right? Because again, this is only going to be responsible for the dev server, nothing else outside of that. So it's perfect for what it's going to be doing. All right, so we're going to go down to administration here. The first thing that we need to do is we need to update this guy. Since we just set it up, we need to make sure that we get all of the latest update and do all the things that we need to do before we start making configuration changes to it. So we want to go to repository. There are two types of repository. You have the enterprise and then you have the non-subscription. We want to make sure that the enterprise one is disabled. Just a caveat here. For my personal use case for my other server, which I would touch on a little bit on the next video, I definitely want to try to see if I can get the enterprise level subscription, the cheap one, of course. I cannot afford it. Cannot afford an expensive one, but the cheap one, of course, wherein it's just a form of support. You don't necessarily need it, but Proxmox is such a great software and it helps you learn so much. If you're willing to learn that, it will be an honor to be able to kind of donate something or give something just in the form of like a thank you, so to speak. So, but on my dev servers, on the dev environment servers, I normally don't do enterprise. I normally just do non-subscription repository. So I'm going to go ahead and disable this guy right here. And what I want to do is I just want to click back here and then click add. I'm going to click OK to that. And I'm going to say I want the non-subscription repository. I'm going to click add on that. I'm going that non-subscription. Okay, that's perfectly fine. And we can see it here as well. All right, so let's go back to update here. We're going to go ahead and click refresh, and that's okay. And there's a way to get rid of that prompt, by the way. So you can always get rid of that prompt if you want to. So it's going to do its thing. It's going to pull down the updates, and I'm going to click X here once that's done. And then you're going to see that we have all these updates that we need to run. So once we're there, we're just going to click on this other button that says upgrade. You're going to see this screen. And then what you want to do is you just want to say yes, click enter, and it's going to go ahead and pull down all of the latest updates and pull down all of the good stuff. So this is the first thing that you normally need to do. To update the server before you start making changes to it. All right, so the updates are done. We're going to get out of this and get back into Proxmox. All right, so now we're back in Proxmox. If we click refresh, click OK one more time. I need to get out of that. Click on that, come back here. and you can see that there are no more updates, right? So there's no more updates to run. Updates are good, so there's nothing else to do. So we're gonna go ahead and start configuring things. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to now set up our storage where our backup are going to reside, right? So we have everything up and running, our server is up to date. So now we just need to set up our storage. So first, if we go to storage, we can see that we have, of course, two set of disks here. We have the disk, which is ATB HDD disk that we're going to use as our backup point in terms of storage. And then, of course, we have the NVMe that the Proxmox OS is installed on. So this is what we're going to use, right? So real quick, we're going to talk about the different local storage that I offer here, because also keep in mind that you have different form of storage that we talked about earlier, like the S3 endpoints and all that other good stuff. And then being able to set up like another server outside of the server to be able to push things too. So you have those as well. And also you can mount something as well, right? So, but here we have directory and then you have ZFS. For directory, you can create a directory by just clicking on create, and then you can select your disk, and then you select a file type, which in my case, I'm most likely going to be using, I'm going to be using XFS and a name it. We'll talk about that in a minute and we'll create it in a minute. Or you can do ZFS, right? So you click ZFS, you click create, and then you can name your ZFS storage. You can select the RAID type that you want to use, compression type here as well, and then you can select the A shift number variant that you want, and then you select your disk that you want in your RAID, and then you'll create it. In my case, like I said earlier, one, I only have one disk. Two, I don't have enough memory to be using ZFS. So I'm going to stay away from ZFS from now. I know a lot of like benefits for using ZFS, but for now, I'm just going to stay away from it, because the idea is just to kind of get my VMs and containers off of my server while I go through this upgrade. And then I'll make a lot of changes moving forward in terms of what I want to do. But for now, one disk, 8 TB should be more than enough. And then if anything, I can back things up off-site just to be a little bit safe. But this is more than enough for now. So to create our storage, you're going to go back to directory, because I'm going to create a directory storage, and this is where all of the things are going to leave, the VMs, the container. This is where they're going to leave once they're created. So we're going to go to disk. Again, we have one disk here. We're going to say create directory, and then of course we already have one disk. I'm going to select it. I'm going to select XFS, and then I'm going to name it dev. Because this is for the dev environment, that's perfectly fine. Or maybe dev underscore PBS. Okay, let's name it dev underscore PBS. And then we're going to add it to the data store. The data store is this guy right here, and you're going to see that once I create it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say create, and then it's going to do its thing and then create it. So let's just give it a few seconds here and let it do its thing. And once we create it, once the creation is done, we're going to move on to the second part, where it's connecting our server to this backup server, so the PVE to the PBS, to be able to do the backup. So as you can see, now we have our storage. If we click on it, it gives us a summary. It tells us how many like host, VM, and CT are on it. Nothing for now. It kind of gives us a bit of information about this guy. It tells us the content that are on it. There's nothing on it right now because we just created it. And then it talks about proning. And then you can go ahead and then add a prone job here, or you can also kind of edit your garbage collector setting here as well. Now, again, I'm not too focused on this. For the prone job, this is what I was talking about, where like you come in here and you set it and you say like, hey, keep backup for this time to this time, and then delete it for this time. And Proxmox does have like a really good simulation. So they have this thing right here. You can come in here and play around with it, enter some stuff in here to kind of simulate what it would look like if you were to set up a specific prune job for a specific time and things like that, right? So I'm going to include this in the description. You can always come here and play around with it. So here, I'm not going to set up any prune job right now, because again, my job right now, or what I'm trying to accomplish right now, is to set it up, back up all of my VM. It's not a lot yet. Do the upgrade on the dev server, restore the VMs back, and then after that I can come back and then start configuring things for like a nightly or a weekly, some sort of backup schedule at that point, and I'll be able to set up the prune job to be able to say like, hey, clean this thing up, like backups that are this old or that old, and I'll be able to kind of sit down and be able to kind of come up with a plan that cleans up things a little bit, so the edge storage don't become like really full, because as time goes on, we're going to build more and more in the dev server, so we do definitely want to clean up some things, right? And then you can have sync job, verify job options, and this is all at the data store level. So this is all at the another data store level. This is all at the storage itself, like at the storage level. So if you were to create it and you have different storages in here, you will create it for this particular storage. Now, if you want to create a centralized one, you can come up here and then do the same thing here as well, right? And this will be centralized to the ones that you choose when you add in this, for example, and it give you an option to be able to add, select the storage that you want to use. So as far as storage go, that's pretty much it. It's nothing too complicated. That's how you create a storage. And of course, if it's ZFS, you go through the same thing. If you want to kind of delete your storage, so let's go back here. For example, this directory you just created, you can't delete it here, right? So if you try to delete it here, it's going to tell you like, hey, that stuff is being used. So if we do dev underscore PBS, it's going to tell you that that stuff is being used, so you cannot delete it. What is it? I have space somewhere. Oh, sorry, dev underscore PBS. And if you want to remove it, it's going to say that, hey, you can't remove it because this guy is being used by this storage right here. So what you will need to do, you will need to come to the storage and you need to remove the data set, and it's going to tell you destroy all data. It's going to tell you keep configuration job information. If you want to do that, you can do that, but let's assume that we're just deleting everything, and it's going to ask you to type the name of the stuff in here as well. Underscore PBS. And then you're going to click remove. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is, like I said, you're going to destroy all of your data. So just be mindful of that when you're deleting things. You don't want to delete things and then be like, hey, my data is gone. So just be mindful of that. And of course, you can come back in here. You can go to directory now, and then you should ideally be able to remove it from here. And it's most likely going to tell you that you might need to restart. I'm not sure, but let's see. dev underscore PBS. And then say remove, and it's going to completely remove it. So you need to restart. So you can do that and just remove it. And then if you come back to disk, you can just wipe this disk if you don't need the stuff in here anymore. Just click wipe. It's going to ask you yes, and it's going to do its thing. And then you can just recreate it. So now if we go back right to Datastore, storage here, click on directory, click on create, dev, select the disk, XFS, and then just call it dev underscore PBS. There you go. And then we'll just recreate it, and we're back in business. The next thing that we need to do now is that we need to connect this storage, this storage that we just data set that we just created to, the Proxmox Backup Server itself, or more specifically this data storage. We need to connect it to this guy right here, which is our Proxmox Dev Environment Server. So we're able to back up some of our containers and some of our virtual machines that we've been working on and testing things on, right? Because so far, these are the only things that we have in here right now, because we're still building this environment and still kind of putting things together. So we need to be able to back up all of this over to this guy. And to connect it, the first thing that we need to do is that if you were to come in here, let's just click on this. So I'm going to get out of this, for example, and then come back to this data set right here, which is the one that we just created. You're going to go to summary. And if you go to summary, you're going to see up here that says show connection information, right? So we're going to go ahead and click show connection information. And this is the information that you're going to need to be able to make that connection between your Proxmox server to your Proxmox backup server. So we're going to leave this information up, and then we're going to go over to our Proxmox server. We're going to go over to a data center, which looks like we're already on the data center. And then we're going to go to storage. And in storage, you're going to say add. And then we're going to scroll all the way down to Proxmox Backup Server, this guy right here. And then in here is going to ask us for a couple of information. First, it's going to call us to ask us, what do you want to call this guy? I'm going to call it the same thing. So what is it? Dev underscore PBS. Right, and then it's going to ask us what is the name of the server. That it's basically going to ask us for the internal IP address, or the IP address of the server, which is this guy right here. We're going to go back and paste that in, and you need to make sure that this server is able to reach your Proxmox backup server, right? Because both of them need to be able to communicate with each other to be able to do what they need to do, right? And send information back and forth. Mostly send information from this guy to your backup server, and then send information from your backup server to this guy once you're restoring something. So the next thing it is asking us for is like, hey, what is the username? The username is basically this guy right here. So you just copy in this guy. So if you've changed root to something else, you're just going to copy the first part, copy this guy right here, come over here and then paste that in, and it's going to ask you for the password for that user, and then you're going to enter the password for that user. Okay, and then it's going to ask you what node do you want this to apply to. In that case, we only have one node, right? Our main node, so node 0. I'm going to click out of that, and it's going to say yes, enable. And then it's going to ask us what data set are you going to be backing things up to. So again, if we go back here, our data set, of course, is dev PBS, right? Because that's the data set. That's the only data set that we have in this Proxmox Backup Server. So I'm going to go back and see this guy. Now, for namespace is just a way to create sub folder to organize your backup. So the main and the only namespace that's on the backup server right now is root, because we just created this. So if I was to go back to the Proxmox Backup Server right now, we already have all the information that we need here, so we can go ahead and close this. And if I was to go into this guy and I go into content, you can see that the root namespace is the only namespace that we have in here. Now, let's say you want to organize things a little bit more. You want to create, you're going to be using this Proxmox Backup Server for more than one thing, and then you have several data sets in there. In this data set, you can do something like add namespace. So click on this guy right here, and then you can call this namespace whatever you want. So in our case, we're going to say dev, right? And then we're going to say create. Now the parent root folder, the parent namespace, of course, is root, right? And then we're going to click on create. So now we have the dev subfolder, and you can create different namespace. So you can create another namespace and call it something else. But for me, dev is fine now. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put dev in here. Now keep in mind that if you do not want to create a namespace, you will need to leave this blank, because the default namespace is root. So you will need to, you don't necessarily need to enter anything here if you're not creating a namespace, because the default namespace is root. But in our case, we did create one, so we're going to call this dev. Is it dev? I need to make sure and match too, because that's important. Okay, dev lowercase. So icase lowercase. Oh, and then we need the fingerprint. So if we go back, we'll go back to summary, go back to show content, and we need this guy right here. This is the fingerprint. So we're going to copy that, and then we're going to go back, and we're going to paste that in. Now, if all of the information here is correct, once you click add, this backup server should now be added to your Proxmox environment. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. It's going to take a while and do its thing. Hopefully the password is correct and everything is correct. Oh, of course. All right. So let's see. Unauthorized 500. I must have entered the password incorrectly. So let's do that again. Okay, let's try it again. There you go. So just make sure that all of the information that you're entering is correct. If something is wrong, it's not going to work as you saw earlier. But now if we go here, we can see that our Proxmox Backup Server is now added to our Proxmox server, and now we're able to now take backup of any of these guys right here. So let's say our CA server, for example, want to take a backup of our CA server. Actually, let's do our Nginx server. So Nginx container. These are our containers, and these are our virtual machine, right? Again, this environment is small right now because we're just starting to build things. Like we just started this series, so it's going to grow immensely over time. And one of the reasons why, again, maybe I should leave that alone. I'll talk about that in the next video. But anyways, we can click any of this containers or servers. So in this case, container here, and then click on backup, and then we say backup now. And now you can see that we have PBS in here, which is our backup server, and it's telling us like, hey, capacity is. Click on that again. Capacity is 8. Available is 7.85 TB. So we'll click on that. We're going to leave not local. We're going to leave everything as default. We're going to leave notification order. We're going to leave all of that. That's fine. You can add notes here, of course, if you want, and all that stuff. And then we're just going to click backup, and it's going to do its thing, and it's going to back up to our Proxmox Backup Server. And if everything worked correctly, we should see here that it's good to go. So once it's completely done, you will see that task is okay here. That means that this container has been backed up to our Proxmox Backup Server. And you can do this for all of your other components. And you can see this here as well. So you can click on it and be able to click restore. And the beauty is that, you know, once you have you do whatever it is that you need to do, you set up a new storage. It doesn't matter where you restore the store. And we're going to take a look at that on the next video. When you're restoring it back to the server, it's just going to tell you, hey, what disk do you want to save it to? You can select the new disk and it just move that over to that new disk. So it's not tied to a disk. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not tied to a specific disk. So just because you create it on a ZFS file storage, now you can transfer it over to thin provisioning. It doesn't matter. When you're transferring it over, it just tells you, hey, where do you want to push this? Where do you want to push this machine? It select your storage and it just push it there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So we're going to do a VM. The VMs are normally going to take a while because they're a lot more heavier than containers. So again, when you're backing things up, just keep in mind that if you're backing up a lot of stuff, it's going to drain your bandwidth. And this is where the stuff that we talked about come into play. So if we go back over here, for example, and if you go back, actually, you can see that things already stand to back up. But we'll take a look at it in a few. But access control, not access control, traffic control comes into play where you're able to limit specific things so that the backup server doesn't necessarily eat all of your bandwidth on your network, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're backing up something, right? You might want to put this on a different subnet or something like that to kind of separate it a little bit so it doesn't eat all of your traffic, right? So you might need to think about your backup strategy carefully when you're backing up a lot of stuff. In my case, I am not. So I'm going to click on this, for example, say backup, and then I'm going to say PBS, and then leave that as that, and it's going to back up, and it's going to take a few because again, this is a VM. While that is doing that, we're going to X out of it here and let it do its thing. It's going to still keep running in the background, so you don't necessarily need to worry about it at all. And then we're going to come back in here and we're going to look at our data storage. We're going to look at our backup, and then we can see that if we click on this, we can see that things are starting to back up. So this is the VM that we just initiated backup on. And then if we look at this guy, this is the container that we just back up, and these are all of the different components of the container that contain specific configuration and things like that. So again, very convenient. And if I'm ready to restore it, I just go back. Once I connect my Proxmox backup server, I go to that specific thing, or which one did we backup recently? This guy, or which one was it? Nginx. Nginx, you can see that backup, and then you can just restore it from here if you want to restore this backup here. So again, very convenient. So there it is. You have all of this component. You can even download it if you want. Extremely convenient. It's designed to work really well with Proxmox. It works perfectly fine, and this is a way for you to be able to, and if you want to be super organized, you can do something like create another namespace where you say, hey, container namespace, and then VM namespace, and then back up your VMs to your VMs, and then your containers to your container namespace, so you keep things a little bit organized. And it offers a lot more flexibility that we talked about earlier, so you can back up things to your S3 endpoints and cloud endpoints and things like that. It gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's very, very, very well built, just like Proxmox, and it works pretty well. So that's pretty much it for me. So now I have to go and then try to back up all of these guys because I need these guys to be backed up before I move on to upgrading my storage. So next video, we're going to talk about why I'm upgrading my storage and why I kind of did a self-inflicted issue on myself because I was trying to be cheap, but you know how it is. But we'll talk about that in the next video. For now, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of talk about this, set it up, and then go from there. And in the next video, we'll kind of restore things and then make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to work. All right, so that's pretty much all I have for this video, guys. In the next video, we're going to upgrade some hardware on the lab server. And like I said earlier, that's the whole reason why I wanted to back up these VMs and containers, so I don't have to kind of redo the work all again after upgrading my hard drives. So we're going to take care of that in the next video. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay geeking, stay curious. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.